Hey guys, it's Jason again, along with my co-host Rich, and we're in Victory Brand Studios. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Louisville shooting.
It's not always fun and games for first responders.
05 Central, you show me in pursuit.
But sometimes it is.
Oh my God, he's not wearing pants again.
Sometimes it's dangerous.
Flipping around, look out, look out, look out.
Sometimes it's not.
Antler Boulevard for a snake in a house.
And sometimes it's just plain stupid.
Chihuahua in his lap on a lawnmower.
This is the stupid side of first response.
Dispatch, do I really have to go to that?
This is Code 0.5.
Come in 0.5.
Okay, I guess once again, we had another active shooter scenario, or I say scenario, travesty that happened in Louisville on April 10th. What was that, like at 8:30 in the morning?
Yep.
And I'm going to make the request that you don't mention the shooter's name and that kind of stuff, because we really don't give a rat's ass who he is.
Nope.
This shooting was at Old National Bank in Louisville, Kentucky, where 5 people were killed and 8 others were injured. And I guess of those, the ones that were injured, 2 of them were police officers. The statistics, or the facts of what happened, says that a phone call was placed around 8:38 a.m. from the Old National Bank, and it was reported that an active shooter was in the area. The employees of the Old National Bank were in a conference room during a scheduled virtual meeting when the shooter opened fire. And I didn't realize this till you had mentioned it, but I guess this person live streamed this on Instagram.
Yep. And the reason I believe that was picked is that was where it worked.
Oh yeah,
There were co-workers.
yeah. This dude worked there.
But yeah, he apparently live streamed it on Instagram.
And from what I'm reading here says officers arrived at the scene 3 minutes after the first call came in. And then it says that they saw a man lying near the entrance to a hotel before hearing shots. And then said the shooter had set himself up in an ambush position and able to target the police at 8:45 a.m. It says LMPD, which is the Louisville Metro Police Department, were able to put a stop to it at 8:45. So they were made aware of it at 8:38, and 7 minutes later they put a stop to it. Most importantly, though, we'll talk about their 5 victims that were killed were Josh Barrick, Deanna Eckert, Tommy Elliott, Juliana Farmer, and Jim Tutt. It says all the victims were employed at the bank. It says 4 of those victims were pronounced at the scene, and Eckert died at the hospital. But then I guess there was a letter found.
Yeah, there were 2.
By the shooter.
Yeah. Apparently there were 2 extensive notes. There was one in his home and one found on him after they started checking him. And the notes apparently reveal that part of his goal was to show how easy it is in America for someone dealing with serious mental illness to buy an assault-style weapon.
Huh.
Apparently he had purchased an AR-15 style rifle 7 days before the shooting. And under Kentucky law, he's only required to fill out a form for the U.S. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and to undergo an FBI records check to ensure he's not a felon or the subject of a court-imposed restraining order.
So, and you know, after it happened, what's the first thing that people start talking about? They want to get rid of whatever weapons, but this one and then the last shooting we talked about, both of them, the common denominator involved was that both people needed mental health treatment.
Right. And according to, that's one of the things though too, is that according to the suspect's mother in the 911 call, she said, "We don't even own guns. I don't know where he would have gotten a gun." So they weren't even aware that he was in possession of anything.
Did he live with his mom?
I believe.
Okay.
So that his, apparently he had a diagnosis of depression, but nobody saw any signs that he was planning or capable of violence.
Yeah, and from what I've read, it said that I guess he had messaged some of his friends or one of his friends telling him that he had felt suicidal, and that says here he wanted to kill as many people in the bank as he could. So he had told a friend about that, and
Nobody said anything.
yeah,
Nobody called, 988 and said, "Hey, I got this guy I work with or one of my friends, and he's not talking right. He's not acting right." He could have called law enforcement.
mm-hmm.
Said, "Hey man, I'm worried about this guy. He's not acting right." But
yeah, and I understand that people don't want to get involved. Like we'll have people call in and be like, "Hey, my friend's not acting right. He said this and that. Can you go check on him, but don't mention it was me," or, so, I mean, and that 988 that you mentioned, that's a nationwide thing.
mm-hmm.
So if you or somebody that needs some kind of help is struggling or needs someone to talk to, you can call that number and give them the information, and then they will actually send it out to whoever in that local area,
mm-hmm.
and will get you some help.
Oh yeah, they'll bring out a mobile crisis unit.
Yeah, and I mean it and like with this guy here, his own worst enemy was himself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to help people with that, because a lot of time, like if it's me and I'm struggling with something, I've got so much pride that I'm not going to tell you.
Mm.
So if somebody has gotten to that point that they're saying this stuff and they're telling you,
mm-hmm.
it's getting to that, it's starting to get to that level where, hey, either he needs help or something's going to get bad.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something and mental health is not something to joke about. It's not funny. You could probably every person could probably say something in their life that they've gone through or experienced where somebody needed some help at some point, or maybe they did, and nothing was done about it.
Mm-hmm. Because there's such a stigma around it.
Yeah.
Because, I've gone out on calls with people and, kind of asking around and stuff. You'd be like, "Hey man, have you ever gone to the doctor about this stuff? Like, are you on any medications or anything like that?" And they'll, "Yeah, I went back, at whatever it was, and I'm supposed to be on this and this and this." And it's like, well, why aren't you? Was it like a money issue or? And then like I've had people say, "Well, I quit taking it because my girlfriend, every time she'd get mad at me, she'd throw it in there, like, 'Oh, did you take your crazy pills today?'"
Yeah.
And so, they, you know what I'm saying? They didn't want to deal with that. They looked at it, or it was used against them, or like thrown in their face somehow when they were really trying to do the best they could or whatever. And
Which ultimately just makes things worse.
yeah, it's like if that's what somebody who supposedly cares about you, if that's how they're going to talk to you and treat you, then they don't really care about you.
Yeah.
Screw that. So,
and that's another thing that we wanted to start getting out to people, is that there's a nationwide number that you can call, and it's 988. And what's the specifics on it? The name of them? And
so there's a couple different ones. So basically it was developed, so I can find this, because it was rolled out nationwide because they wanted to have something available that was like 911.
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of freaking crisis lines and call this place and call that place or whatever. They wanted to have one centralized thing that they could call, the people could call if they needed help. Trying to pull it up, but
We'll have more coming up on Code 0.5.
If you're looking for a political podcast that goes beyond the headlines, check out the Beltway Briefing. I'm Howard Schweitzer, CEO of Cozen O'Connor Public Strategies. Every week on the Beltway Briefing, our team of former Republican and Democratic presidential appointees, Capitol Hill veterans, and political advocates shares behind-the-scenes perspective that cuts through the noise. If you want the inside scoop, subscribe now to the Beltway Briefing here or wherever you get your podcasts.
If you need a minute, I can give it to you.
Yeah.
Oh, heck, I just
So
pulled it up.
it's-
Oh, and you can even text them.
Yeah, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline was renamed the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline on July 15th, 2022. 988 was officially implemented as the toll-free nationwide number for the hotline on July 16th. And it's essentially like how 911 works. So it looks at your location and tells them where you need to be or the resources closest to you to get you in touch with somebody that's close. We actually had somebody that had called 988 for a family member, and a person from the 988 line contacted our dispatch, gave them the information about what was going on, and requested that we go out there and just sit with them until the mobile crisis unit could get there. Just in the off chance, they didn't say he was doing anything and they weren't hurting themselves, but that they had received a call and they wanted to make sure that they would be okay until their people could get there. And once we got there, I mean, excuse me, it wasn't a have to place them in handcuffs type thing while they were talking to the people. I mean, they treated them
Right there.
like, yeah, I mean, they will, talk to you there, take you for evaluation and stuff. I mean, they'll transport you, like they'll do all that, but it wasn't like you had to sit there and be handcuffed to a chair while we were waiting for them. They didn't want that.
Yeah.
They didn't want, it's not like anything that you would.
And from what I'm looking at right now, it says that like they have a website. It's 988lifeline.org. And then that 988 number, you can call or you can text them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, and you know how a lot of people, younger people, don't like to call. I mean, heck, I'm the same way. I'll see a phone call come in and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to talk right now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll send a text or whatever. But, you can even do that. You can send a text message to talk to, whoever you need to. And then they will help and do whatever need be to get, their resources activated or whatever to get you some help.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Since the launch of 988, they've seen a significant rise in call volume. They've routed more than 2 million calls, texts, and chat messages to call centers, with the majority being answered in under a minute. So you have somebody available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The average speed to answer over a year, was about 3 minutes, and that was in 2021. It's now 44 seconds, and that was in December of 2022.
So, this isn't just an individual thing. It's not like if you are having a problem, you go deal with it or you contact whoever. If you're concerned for a friend, a loved one, or a total stranger, you can call. Or you can even step in. I mean, there's nothing wrong with going, hey, man, are you all right? And I know that's tough because, a lot of people don't want to talk about it, don't want to bring it up. But we need to, I guess, eliminate that stigma that, just because you're saying that you need help doesn't mean that you're weak.
Mm-hmm. And since its launch, they've also increased the number of call centers for Spanish-speaking people from 3 to 7. And they have some different Spanish-speaking language options for text and chat messaging. And they are also implementing video phone capabilities for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. So they're really trying to cover their bases here, making sure that everybody has access to mental health.
Yeah, so basically with all this crap and then that shooting that happened, we need to stop going after the object that they're holding to perform these acts. We need to start going towards the people and helping them.
Yeah, and I think we touched on that before. Is like if you have somebody, like say you have I think we talked about the red flag laws and stuff like that, and how it could be good and it could be bad. Like stepping it up. If you have somebody that lives in your house that may have access to your firearms, you know what I'm saying? Would that, of course you keep your stuff in a safe, but I mean, one of my big things would be if they did that, and let's say you had somebody that lived in your house that, they had nixed a person with mental health problems or mental health diagnosis, nixed them from being able to get a hold of a weapon. And let's say they lived in a home with somebody that did have one that was undiagnosed. So would that nix that person from being able to own anything?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it just snowballs. It's just I don't really think there is a good way to do it, because you have the people that may not have a diagnosis that want to do their thing and live their life. But then you also have these people that do have diagnoses, and they don't need to be around it. You know what I'm saying? They don't need the opportunity. So how do you balance? If you take it away from, it's like punishing everybody. So I think it's going to be a round and round thing. And even if you did take guns away, like I think they do that in the UK. They're stabbings though.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They're going to find a way.
Yeah, whether it be a knife or a brick or a rope or, there's so many of a car. I mean, there's so many things that are available to them. You just take one thing away, then there's going to find something else. So we need to go after the source, and it's probably tough to do because there's no funding for it.
Right.
I mean, we get all this funding for other stuff and I guess because it's not cool or whatever, because they'll get all this funding for, like putting stuff in your town for playgrounds and, parks and all this stuff. But then because that helps more of a majority of people where the other one doesn't. But, and you know what? Golly, I just got through looking. Let
me see. I was trying to find statistics for mass violence crimes that didn't involve guns.
Well, I was looking through here at gun violence in the United States, and it talks about how a majority of gun violence involves people with mental health problems. I don't know. Dang, man, that's going to be a whole other episode of stuff to talk about.
Exactly. That's what I was saying. I mean, I know they took them away, but like they did away with them in Chicago. 100%. And in Illinois, you're not allowed to own a gun, but it's like
Chicago's the most restrictive city in the United States.
They actually have the most gun deaths per year.
Yeah.
Even though it's the most restrictive. So, I mean, they're going to get it. They're going to get it regardless.
Yeah. Which shows that, and like the people have mentioned this before, you can, legislate it and outlaw it to death, but you're only hurting the law-abiding citizen. Mm-hmm. So you're not doing the others any good.
No, because if they want it, they'll get it.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was actually watching I think it was on a TikTok. The dude was talking about things that he'd gotten off the dark web and stuff. And he's like, oh, one of the first things I got was a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah, and then there's other ways they can get them. I mean, private party sales.
And, I mean, now, if you got a 3D printer, I mean, you can do it.
You can do something, yeah.
Like there was that one dude in Florida, and they did a gun buyback program up to like $200. I think it was like $200 for like a long gun or whatever. And this guy went to Lowe's and I think spent a couple of bucks, and it was like some 2x4s and some black pipe, a couple nails, and some other crap. And they looked like just some jinky crap. And of course he come up and said, okay, you want to buy them back? And they were like, no, I don't know about that. And he demonstrated that they worked, and they had to buy every single one of them from him. I think he only spent like I have to pull that up.
For each gun, it cost him like $5 to $10 to make, and they were paying him $200 for it.
Yeah.
I'm reading more on the Louisville thing. We can probably get back on that.
Yeah.
How the mentions here the chief medical officer at the University of Louisville Hospital, I guess, talked about how they received 9 patients. 2 were police officers who were injured in the shooting. 3 of them were released later that afternoon, and 3 were still in the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. I didn't know this. The 3 who were critically wounded required operations, and one of those police officers required brain surgery.
Yeah, he was a rookie, wasn't he?
It didn't say here what it was. There's a long paragraph about the suspect. And it talks about how he repeatedly suffered from concussions from playing football.
Really? See, and that's that thing that I was reading, I was telling you about, that his brain was going to be examined for signs of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, commonly known as CTE. And the disease has a variety of symptoms, including memory loss, confusion, impaired judgment, aggression, depression, anxiety, impulse control issues, and sometimes suicidal behavior. But experts note that symptoms like these may not necessarily be caused by CTE. So I think there's a correlation between that now.
I don't know. There's so many things. The brain is so, I mean, it's undiscovered country still. We still don't know everything about it. And say this guy, I mentioned earlier about how the guy told one of his friends he was feeling suicidal and that he wanted to kill as many people in that bank as he could. Some of his other family and friends said that he posted dark memes about how he could burn the whole place down, talking about his bank. And it says, one of his posts says, "I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it." And then another post he said is, "They won't listen to words or protests, but let's see if they hear this."
Jeez.
And I know you see that stuff so often. People post it like crazy, and it's hard. I mean, people are probably afraid that if they call in enough and are reporting stuff, that it's like they're a crying wolf.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, man. It's so tricky to figure out whether or not somebody really needs, that kind of help. But, and this one, I wanted to mention this one because, what I said earlier, it boils down to the same things. People are needing mental health treatment. But, there really wasn't a whole lot involved with this one. This guy obviously had a mental health condition. He had signs that he needed help. He couldn't get help. And law enforcement responded and put a stop to him within 7 minutes. But, here's another thing. You guys need to go on our Facebook and like the page. Also, we've got Patreon and Cash App. The Patreon is code 0.5, and then our Cash App is the SDL Media Group. It's what's over a bunch of things that we have going on. But anyway, I think we've kind of hit a stopping point on this, and we can get out of here.
Yeah, there was I was looking through some stuff, trying to figure out if they gleaned anything from those letters that he left.
Oh, you're still reading?
Yeah, and essentially, he was just quiet or whatever, but I guess in 2018, he had wrote an essay about having issues fitting in. And that's another thing that needs to stop is bullying in schools. You know what I'm saying? Because stuff like this says, "My self-esteem has long been a problem for me. struggled to an extent to fit in. This has given me somewhat negative self-image that persists today. Making friends has never been easy, so I have more experience than most in operating alone. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just that's a whole other, we can go down the whole rabbit hole with all this. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure there was bullying on top of the mental health issues. I mean, I didn't see anything about him having any kind of substance abuse issues. But
no,
I mean,
and that's strange too, because usually people with mental health conditions have substance abuse problems,
self-medicating.
Yeah,
we wouldn't. So,
all right, well, we're gonna get out of here. If you guys like the format of our shows and what we've been talking about, let us know. If you think we should stop it and just talk about funny stuff, then I might think about it. But anyway, thanks for listening.
Later on.
You have been listening to Code 0.5, the lighter side of police work. If you have ideas or suggestions for our show, we'd love to hear from you. Visit our website at code05.co. That's code05.co. And please consider making a donation at our Patreon page, patreon.com/code05. Be sure to use the digits 05. Thanks for listening to Code 0.5.